Welcome to my Elegant Fellowship. I'm thrilled to have you on this journey with me. This podcast is all about exploring the timeless principles of personal development, and I'm Fernanda, your elegant host, guiding you through it all on the Elegantia Linea podcast. Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. I'm not a psychologist or a certified coach. What I am is a mentor, someone passionate about helping you explore and harness the power of your autonomy through self-awareness. What I share here comes from years of experience in process improvement, training, and personal growth, as well as my own journey through therapy and studying psychology. These tools have empowered me to navigate life with resilience and purpose, and I'm here to share them with you. The truth is that personal development isn't always linear. In fact, it's often messy and unpredictable. And that's why I'm here, to help you bring structure to the chaos so you don't feel overwhelmed by the uncertainty. My mission is to help you construct a life that feels purposeful and fulfilling, giving you clarity, direction, and the tools to unlock your full potential. Let's measure the obstacles in your life, because understanding the size of your challenges is an important step to overcoming them. In this episode, we're taking things a little deeper. I want to prepare you right from the start. This is going to be a more hands-on episode. We'll be exploring some new concepts and walking through 3 different exercises. Yes, it's a bit intense, but don't let that intimidate you. The whole purpose of this series is to give you tools that make things easier, not harder. Everything I share today is designed to be clearer with practical step-by-step guidance. Believe me, I am the queen of detailed explanation. By the end of this episode, you'll not only understand the concepts, but also know when to use specific methods and have actionable ways to apply them in your life. I'll walk you through everything so you won't feel lost or overwhelmed. And remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about exploring, learning, and giving yourself the time and space to figure things out. This episode is part of a series that started on episode 2 and ends on episode 6, because it is about tackling a single methodology. So if you haven't listened to episode 2, I highly recommend going back and tuning in first, because that is the foundation of everything we're going to be discussing today. These episodes are all part of our journey, and I've broken them down into 5 steps, each one building on the last. I have adapted a structured approach from the world of process improvement called DMAIC, which stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. Let's not ring any alarms just yet. I won't go too deep into the technical side of things. Instead, I have simplified it into practical steps for personal development. Think of this method as a way to find clarity and structure to the chaos that life brings, especially when tackling problems that feel overwhelming and unclear. Today, we'll focus on the measure phase, which helps us understand how big our challenges are so we can approach them with intention. Now, let me introduce you to a simple tool called the cause-solution matrix. This matrix helps identifying the right approach for solving a problem. Now, you won't need a pen and a paper for this, or anything you can write on. No need to be an expert drawing. We will be basically using lines. As always, you can pause the audio at any moment to do this more effectively. Start by drawing 2 lines, a vertical one and a horizontal one, as if you were starting to draw a square. On the vertical line, write cause, divided into known and unknown. On the horizontal line, write solution, divided into simple and complex. This creates 4 quadrants that guide how you approach different types of problems. If you need to visualize it, I prepared a post on my Instagram on how to do it. You can check it. Here's what each quadrant means. If the cause is known and the solution is simple, that's a straightforward problem, and you just take action. For example, imagine you are in the middle of a road trip and you suddenly hear a noise. You stop and you discover the cause of it. You have a flat tire. The cause is known. You have a flat tire. And the solution is simple. Just change the tire and continue your road trip. No deep thinking required. Just action. On the square that shows this combination, write the method. Just do it. But what if the cause is known and the solution is more complex? Take overspending, for instance. You know you're spending more than you should because you have been going over budget for 2 months already, and you don't know exactly where you're spending your money. The solution can be as simple as just cutting back on the spending, but you need to know where you are overspending and why. You need to dig a little deeper, track your spending, maybe use a budgeting app, a simple Excel sheet to control your finances. And if this is a bit more of a behavioral issue, you need to eliminate wasteful habits. It's more complex because it's still a problem you need to investigate a bit further, step by step, to find the root cause of overspending to achieve a healthy spending habit. So on the square that shows this combination, write the method waste elimination. Now, if the cause is unknown and the solution is simple, you might need external help. For example, if you're struggling with anxiety and insomnia and you don't know the cause, the immediate solution is to seek professional help. A psychiatrist or a psychologist could help you get to the root cause of the problem, which makes the solution simpler, even if the cause is unknown to you. Seeking medical attention in this case is of utmost importance because the professional will know how to find the best approach to start an appropriate treatment. On the square that shows these combinations, write the method seek an expert. And I want to emphasize here that for any type of illness, this is always the method to choose from. Finally, if both the cause is unknown and the solution is complex, that's when you really need to investigate, and you can do it on your own by using the DMAIC methods to define, measure, and analyze the problem so that you can improve and control the implemented solution. This is the case when you feel truly stuck and need to break down the problem down into smaller, manageable parts. On the square that shows these combinations, write the method DMAIC, DMAIC. You see, in all these examples from the cause-solution matrix, you still have to know what the problem is. So this step is always going to come first. It doesn't matter if you're going to just eliminate waste, take action immediately, seek an expert, or continue using the DMAIC tools. You will always have to identify, define, and name the problem first. On the last episode, we talked about exactly that, identifying what's holding you back. We named the problem. Now, if the cause of the problem is unknown and the solution is complex, we can dig deeper into the DMAIC tools and move on to the measure phase. So let's continue. The goal of measuring your problems is to bring clarity and understand the situation you're living so you can move forward with purpose. When you measure, you no longer feel trapped in the chaos of your emotions because you know what you're dealing with and you know how big it truly is. Remember, measuring doesn't make the problem go away. It simply gives you the confidence to approach it with more intention. By knowing where you are, how far you've come, and what steps you need to take, you regain control over the situation. At the end of the day, the problem is never as scary as it seems once you start understanding it. And you don't need all the answers right now. Just take it one step at a time. My hope for you by the end of this episode is that you'll feel more powerful and more equipped to tackle what you're facing and ready to move forward with clarity and confidence to later analyze the root causes of the problem. So how do we actually measure the problem? I hope you have taken a breath from the last exercise by now because we are heading to our second one. I personally love this because I know so many people have difficulties in actioning parts of the process. To me, it's a very enthusiastic way to encourage you to get your hands dirty and do the work knowing we are in this together. As usual, you can pause the audio at any moment, you can write down the exercise first, do what has to be done, and then come back and finish this. Or, if you prefer, just go straight to the end of this episode and then dig deeper into it later. It's okay too. Do as you please. This is your journey. You have control over it. I'll teach you something called process mapping. Process mapping is a powerful tool to help you pinpoint when a problem truly began. In traditional process mapping, we map processes step by step as they happen. But in this case, we're tracing backwards. This allows us to identify where the problem started, even if it wasn't obvious right away. We're not looking for the root cause just yet, just trying to understand when the situation became an issue. Here's how you can apply this. Write down your current problem. This is your starting point. What is the issue you're facing right now? This is exactly what we did in the previous episode, remember? Now you need to be specific. For example, let's say the problem is I can't focus on my studies and my dissertation and deadline is approaching. Ask yourself what happened right before. Think about the moments leading up to the problem. What were you doing? How were you feeling? Write down each event or situation in a separate box. If there's no significant change from day to day, you can summarize several days into one step. Continue tracing back. Keep asking, what happened before that? Follow the trail until you find the earliest point where you notice something wasn't right. Now, all this must be written in a box and use arrows to connect one with the other. But what you write must be inside the box. Let's use my life as an example to illustrate this process. This is about a time in my life when heavy drinking became a problem and how I can now trace it back to uncover some of the reasons why. Of course, I have already done this work and it's no longer an issue, but maybe you can relate to it and you can address your own unhealthy habits. Now, the drinking itself wasn't the root cause. It was just a symptom of something much deeper. To figure it out, I have to work backwards, trace the steps, and see where things really started to go wrong. Let's begin at the surface, the heavy drinking. I only started drinking alcohol close to turning 20. I noticed my binge drinking in late April or early May 2015. I was drinking more than I ever had, and it wasn't just for fun. It was becoming a coping mechanism, a way to numb myself. Now, in box 1, or rectangle or circle, whatever you're drawing, I will write the problem. Heavy drinking started as a way to cope with emotional overwhelm. So then I asked myself, why was I drinking so much? To answer that, I traced back to the months before. In March 2015, I had just finished my internship as an environmental chemistry professional. I was at this transitional point in my life, and I didn't really have any structure. I thought I was going back to continue working as a technician in the same lab, but because of political issues that arose that year, the funding of the project I worked was cut. So all I was left to do was continue studying to become an actress at a professionalizing drama course I was enrolled. In box 2, I will write, lost about what to do next, considering taking a gap year to become an actress. Just a few months earlier, in January, I had traveled to the US for the first time, visiting Orlando and Miami Beach with my dad and his wife. That trip for me became this weird turning point where I started doing impulsive things. I was never the kind of person who was reckless, but for some reason, there I was acting stupid. For example, I started going on a lot of Tinder dates, something I'd never done before. And looking back, I can see how risky it was. I didn't know these people. I was in a foreign country and anything could have happened. Thankfully, nothing terrible did, but it was still a reckless period, completely new to my pragmatic self. So I can summarize this part like this. Box 3, impulsiveness during the US trip. And freedom without boundaries led to risky behavior. And this box connects directly to the first one because when I came back, that sense of impulsiveness didn't just disappear. But why was I so impulsive during that trip? This takes me back a few more months to late 2014. I think it was around November or December. I had graduated from my environmental chemistry program, which is like a bachelor of technology. At the same time, I had just started taking medication for anxiety and depression, and I was finishing the first semester of my professionalizing drama course. This was all happening after one of the hardest periods of my life. In September 2014, I hit a breaking point. My anxiety and depression were at their peak. I was juggling so much, internship, school, drama course, relationship, and my health completely broke down. I wasn't sleeping, I was trembling all the time, and my heart felt like it was constantly racing. I even had a paralysis in my eyelid from the stress. So I can summarize this as box 4, burnout in late 2014. Physical and mental collapse from overwhelming responsibilities. This connects to box 3 because that burnout made me crave escape, freedom, and recklessness. But there's more. Why was I so burnt out in the first place? To answer that, I have to go back to the end of our relationship. In late July or early August 2014, Something happened in my relationship at the time, something that marked the beginning of the end. It was the second worst thing that my partner had done. And while I don't want to go into specifics, I will just say it was an abusive relationship, and it was the last violent act that completely shifted how I saw him and us. We were together for over 3 years, but by early October, I had finally broken things off for good. Looking back, that breakup was the moment everything started to unravel. The relationship itself had been difficult for a long time, and it left me with a lot of emotional baggage. Ending it gave me this huge sense of freedom, but I wasn't ready for it. I didn't have the tools to process the trauma or the sudden lack of structure in my life. So I can summarize this part as box 5. The relationship ended, leaving behind trauma and disorienting sense of freedom. And if I look even further back, I can see how the relationship itself was tied to my emotional state before we even got together. But for now, I'll leave it at this. To summarize the whole journey in simple terms, the relationship ended and left me with trauma and a freedom I wasn't prepared for. That trauma led to burnout while I was thrown into work and school. Burnout made me crave recklessness and freedom, which showed up during my US trip, and that impulsiveness evolved into heavy drinking as a way of coping and numbing myself. That's how process mapping works. You take a problem, like heavy drinking, and trace it back step by step to find a possible root cause. For me, it all started with the end of that relationship. Of course, we can go back further, but to do that, I would prefer another tool called 5-Why analysis that we will discuss during episode 4. Understanding this allows you to approach the problem with clarity. Knowing that the problem started earlier helps you focus on the real issues to tackle rather than living lost in suffering with a surface level solution. Because if I just looked at the heavy drinking and tried to just stop drinking, I would most likely drink even more. Our brains don't associate the know so well when we don't resolve the root cause of the issue. Having a drinking problem stem from something deeper that cannot be resolved by simply not drinking. We need to understand why that happens. It is the same thing when people want to lose weight and have tried every method in the book. For a lot of people, the difficulty of losing weight starts in the mind. It has less to do with simple caloric deficiency and more to do with emotional eating behavior or other types of psychological blockages. In a nutshell, this tool is extremely helpful in understanding the extent of the problem and recognizing where it truly began. It allows us to trace back events and pinpoint the situations or moments that contributed to the current issue. By mapping this out, you gain clarity, which is essential for taking purposeful action. This will also be incredibly useful when it comes to answering the next 3 questions. Once you've mapped out the process and identified the extent of the problem, you have a clearer perspective to tackle these questions, I promise. Need to take some time to breathe before continuing? Go for it. If not, let's get into the final exercise. Remember, you don't have to share your answers with anyone unless you feel comfortable and want to. If you do, it would be amazing to connect with you on this journey. However, if you prefer to keep your thoughts private, that's completely fine too. This is your journey, and how you approach it is entirely up to you. The key is to be honest with yourself and take the time to reflect deeply. So here are the next 3 questions. First one, when did this problem begin? What we need to know is if it has recently just popped up, or if it has been hours, or if it's been lingering for weeks, months, maybe even years. Do you know where it started or how long it's been happening? Usually we don't, but once you map the process, this question is now easier to answer, right? Second question, how does this problem show up in your life? Think about the impact it has on your emotions and your actions, or lack thereof. Is it affecting your family, your work, your relationship with a partner, or is it something more personal? How does this problem show up in your day-to-day life? Third question, on a scale from 1 to 10, how heavy does this problem feel right now? Don't undermine it. There's no need to feel ashamed if you feel like it is huge, but others might not think it is. Judging yourself is counterproductive. If you feel it is really difficult to overcome, it is fine. Picture a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is almost no impact and 10 feels like a major crisis. Take a moment to rate the weight of this problem for you right now. Here's something really important to understand. The problem itself is never the emotion. We often confuse the feeling we have about a problem, whether it's frustration, fear, anxiety, or stress, with the problem itself. But emotions are simply our reactions to situations. They are not the problem. The actual situation is whatever it is you're facing. Emotions are the result of it, not the cause. These 3 questions will give you an idea of how big the problem really is and where it's impacting you the most. By reflecting on them, you will start to see the problem from a more objective perspective, which is crucial for understanding how to address it effectively. I know this exercise takes time and energy, but know that the clarity you gain here will help you break down the problem and take actionable steps to resolve it. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow stronger. Step by step, you're building a purposeful life. Take your time, trust yourself, and let these questions guide you towards self-comprehension. You've got this, and I've got you. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you were able to take some meaningful steps with these tools and felt at least some relief from the weight of your current struggles. If this episode resonated with you, share your journey with me on Instagram. There, I'll share additional resources, visual guides, and tools to help you along the way. I'd love to hear your insights and reflections and discover how I am contributing to your life. On the next episode, we will finally analyze the root causes of the problem. I personally love this part of the process, and I can imagine you feel very excited about it too, because it is truly where you get a sense of progress. But I'll advert you in advance. It can be extremely emotional and sometimes very painful. As I always say, it is part of the process. Now grab my hand and let's continue this journey together. Follow me and we will explore the path to unlocking your full potential. See you next time and stay aligned. This is Elegantia, the podcast to help you unlock your full potential.